Ching, ching, ching. Hello, everybody. Hi, everyone. I will reintroduce myself to a few of those people that I didn't meet. I'm Teresa O'Neill, Vice President of Global Strategic Partnerships for Travel Oregon. And I am just so very, very excited to be here. This is our final keynote. I don't want it to end, and I think many of you don't either. But I'm beyond thrilled that we have today's keynote speaker. And before I do that and do that introduction, I will acknowledge our sponsor, the Port of Portland. And the Port of Portland is more than just an award-winning airport. From airport concessions to industrial manufacturing to container shipping, the port creates jobs and boosts prosperity in the Portland area. If you've recently flown, you've seen this practice with clear signage, strong customer service, and local Oregon businesses lining the terminals to welcome visitors as they enter the best airport in the U.S. So Travel Oregon is very grateful for our partnership with the Port of Portland, who had a huge part in making today's closing keynote possible. So with that, I'd like to welcome my very good friend, David Zielke, the 2019 Oregon Governor's Tourism Award winner, and also the Port Director of Air Service, joining us live from Portland. Hi, David.
Thanks. Hey, Teresa. Thank you for the intro. I so wish I could be there today. I couldn't, but I promise you I will be at the conference next year and those to follow that. There's nothing I look forward to each year more than being at the Governor's Tourism Conference. So, and I'm hearing it's a great conference so far. This sponsorship is kind of an example of the deep, long-standing partnership that we share with Travel Oregon. And really that extends to all of you in the room. Tourism is a lifeline to us at PDX. You have a tremendous impact in our ability to bring roughly 20 million passengers into and through PDX throughout the year, and the parking and the concession, the rental car, all the things that go along with that, along with supporting all the nonstop flights. So thank you to all of you in the room. As Teresa said, 2 years ago, I was really honored to receive the Governor's Tourism Award. It was a big surprise. My staff and family and everyone and Todd and Teresa kept that from me, but I still carry the award everywhere I go. So I just want you to know I have the award here today. Anyway, but it meant a lot to me. One of the biggest thrills, not only in my career, but in my life since moving to Oregon with my family in 1987. I do want to congratulate Eric Abbey, the recipient this year. He's so well earned that award. He goes back to the original days of the Quality Service Initiative, which led into the Q program, which really brought a commitment to customer service training statewide. And Eric was at the very first meeting. So when I heard he was winning the award, I could not have been happier for him. Congratulations, Eric. The brainchild of that program was Jerry Frank. I know the governor talked about the loss of our dear friend Jerry yesterday. I had the privilege of serving on the commission for 9 years with Jerry Frank, and he became a close friend and a confidant and somebody that was so committed to Oregon. And I just want to acknowledge Jerry and his absolute commitment to customer service here in Oregon. And the trains ran on time when you were in a kind of a meeting with Jerry Frank. We have great news coming to PDX this summer. We have 4 transatlantic flights to be operating sometimes the same day this summer. We have Iceland Air back to Reykjavik onto Europe. We have Condor to Frankfurt, back to all the markets beyond Frankfurt. Delta's coming back with their Amsterdam flight, which has been operating close to 15 years now, with world-class service and connections beyond the Schiphol Airport to all the markets in India and throughout Europe for visitors, for you to be able to bring them into Oregon. And the last part of that news is that British Airways will be launching on June 3rd, 5-day-a-week service to London's Heathrow Airport, is our biggest market in Europe. And we could not be happier than to bring another world-class airline to Oregon like British Airways. So we'll have 2 year-round nonstop flights to Europe this going forward, starting in May and June. So that's big news. Domestically, we are going to be serving the vast majority of the markets that we had in 2019. So most of those flights are back, and Delta's indicated they want to get back to the Asia market sometime this fall. So last thing I want to do before I show you a few pictures of PDX Next, which is a big construction project you may be familiar with. I want to introduce my team. I'm proud of them. I think we have the best air service development program in the country. And I want to introduce them right now. Maybe if they could stand as I introduce them. They probably don't want to do that, but I'm going to make them stand up. So we'll start with Sonia Harvey, who does a great job, joined us just in the last few years from Air Canada. There's Sonia. Hi, Sonia. Rick, I believe, is in a car back to Portland for some other business, but Rick Aizawa, all of you know, has been with us for many, many years at the port. The newest member of our team is Beth Melmer, and she just joining our team literally this month. She's going to be a tremendous resource for us. And so Beth, welcome aboard. And you're going to get introduced all the time now when you come to the Air Service Development team. A lot of big news happening at PDX from a construction standpoint this summer. So we're going to just walk through some slides here. But we have a big roof coming in, a big wooden handcrafted roof coming to PDX this summer. And I think you're going to see that up in the corner there. It's just going to give you an idea of what PDX will look like. And this is going to be done by the spring of 2024. So 2 years from now, this will be what it'll look like when you come to PDX that summer. Next, we'll go from there. And this gives you an idea of what that roof is looking like right now. Over by our fire station, we're positioning all the different sections to the roof. And it's amazing the story behind them. The wood is all sourced from the region, and it's all Douglas fir. So we're really proud of the fact, I think within a 600-mile radius, all the wood being used in the roof is coming from there. The wood is sustainably sourced, so we're very proud of that, working with forestry companies that have committed to sustainability, which we're also committed to. We have a lot of small family minority-owned businesses that we're sourcing wood from. This is a gentleman from Hyla Woods, which is a 6th-generation forestry company from the North Oregon coast. Very proud of them and other companies like that. There's 3 different tribes. This is from the Skokomish tribe, the Coquille tribe, and the Yakima tribe are all helping us source wood. And we're also working with nonprofits such as the Nature Conservatory. And this is one of their foresters that is in the picture here. The next thing we're going to show you is an animated little example of, in the summer, we're going to start moving all those sections of the roof that you saw that is over by the fire station right now. You may have seen it when you come into PDX, but over about a 4 or 5 month period at night, we'll be moving a section at night each. We'll take about 3 or 4 days to put it in place, go back and get another section. And by the end of the summer, early fall, it'll be done. And then we'll have an entire new roof over the existing roof, which will be, then that'll allow us to take the other roof down. So very exciting. And as I turn it back to Lisa, who's going to introduce our keynote, we're going to show you just a 30-second video that shows you a little fun sneak peek of what is going on right now with that locally wood-sourced roof that's handcrafted here in the Pacific Northwest. So thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you that I haven't actually gotten a chance to connect with personally, I want to introduce myself. I am Lisa Edel, the Director of Global Strategic Partnerships. I also can't believe that our days together are coming to an end, but that just means good things. That means I'll get to see you in your communities and your businesses and have a chance to work alongside you as we move forward into the year. So it was so great hearing from David Zilke and our friends at the Port of Portland. Like Teresa mentioned, this session would not be possible without them. So David, Sonia, and the team at the port, thank you so much for continued support of the work that we do in the travel and tourism industry. Thank you. I am so honored to be announcing our final keynote speaker today. Again, I can't believe we're here. She is an award-winning journalist, photojournalist, and reporter. She has conducted a long list of exclusive interviews with Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, Barack Obama, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, and those are just to name a few. She has won 7 National News Emmy Awards, as well as several prestigious accolades. And best of all, folks, is she is an Oregonian. Insert heart emoji there. So we've been trying to get Ann here for a while now. And when we learned she wasn't currently taking in-person speaking engagements, if you know me, that did not deter me. And after all, hasn't the last 2 years been about pivoting and navigating a virtual environment? And I suppose one of the good things about the pandemic is it has allowed us the ability to get creative and use technology to engage with each other. So although I wish so much that Ann Curry was here in person, she's here live with us virtually, so please put your hands together and welcome Ann Curry.
Hey, everybody. Hi. It's great to be with you. Hello, Lisa. Hello, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Ann. This really means a lot to me personally, but also to our industry. I know we got to connect personally a few weeks ago and share a little bit of stories, and I'm just so looking forward to you sharing those and our conversation with the folks that are here today. So just so everybody in the audience knows, we're gonna just do a short Q&A with Ann, and she's gonna share some of her experiences with us. So hang on tight, and here we go. So, and during our conversations together, we had some interesting ones, but it's interesting because we as Oregonians, we claim you, but you were really born in Guam. And can you tell us a little bit more about your experience growing up in Oregon?
Sure. I'm from a military family, 5 kids, a career military father in the Navy. And my father was part of the occupation of Japan. And so he met my mother, who was a war bride from Japan. When he decided to retire from the military, we were living in Virginia after having been in many places. You know, as you know, in the military, you're transferred quite a lot. So after serving almost 30 years, he decided to retire. So here's how he did it. He decided that the way to figure out where he should raise his family was to pick the states and the city, maybe the cities that he thought might be interesting. And he subscribed to the local newspapers. And the Ashland Daily Tidings was one of those newspapers who started coming into our house, and he started reading it to figure out whether this could be a place where he could raise his family. Well, when the Ashland Daily Tidings put the mayor's wife's bean soup recipe on the front page, that sealed the deal. Dad knew that was a place for us. And so he drove us across country. You know, we were like the Oregon pioneers, except for we were in a dilapidated station wagon, driving all the way from Virginia, across the entire country to get to Oregon. And, I worried along the way about whether Oregon would accept us. I mean, we were an unusual family, my father, 6'3", green-eyed, looked like his ancestors from Scotland. My mother, 4'11", looked like, she was still walking wearing a kimono. And all along the way across the country, I could tell that people, and of course they did, looked at us and thought, what the heck is going on with this family? Because we were so unusual. But when we got to Ashland, and we got to Oregon, and we got to Ashland, we really were embraced. I wasn't expecting it. I mean, there was a kind of, we arrived in a state where my blue collar family could actually afford a place to live. The schools were good. We weren't treated funny or weirdly. We were encouraged. And in school, I learned that if you could, do a good job, if you worked really hard, that you could. There was a way to be judged really on your merit. And that was a revelation, that you could be judged on your merit, how hard you worked, whether you had something, whether you were good enough, whether there was something you could contribute. And so I felt really lucky in the end to be from Oregon, and I got in there in my junior and senior years, and then I eventually got jobs in Oregon and lived there for many years before I left the state. But one of the things that I would say about Oregon as well, and it makes me wonder if I would really have ever had the life I've had or become the person I am had my father not made the decision to move to Oregon. And that is that because my family didn't have money to go to. In fact, no one in my family had ever gone to college. in the history of both sides of my family. I was my senior year, my English teacher pulled me aside, Mrs. Hattie Converse, and she asked me where I was going to college. And I said, I'm not going to college. I can't afford to go to college. And she held me by my wrist and walked me to the front office of Ashland Senior High School. And she had the school counselor speak to me. And I found out that there was a family in Southern Oregon called the Carpenter family that had a foundation that was giving scholarships based on merit and need. And she told me how to apply. And they gave me a very small scholarship, but it was enough for me to hope that I could actually, maybe if I worked all the time through the year and during the summers, that I could actually make my way through. And I never knew until my final semester whether I'd actually be able to afford to graduate. But I was able to do that thanks to the Carpenter Foundation scholarship. And also thanks to great opportunities. I mean, I got to be on the debate team at one point. I did a speech, and my senior high school made me a future business leader of America, and I got to go to Washington, D.C. and meet my representative, and I got to organize a walkathon for the March of Dimes in Ashland. I think it was the first one ever, because I wanted to do something about children who were born with birth defects. And anyway, I got so many opportunities, but to work my way through, I also needed jobs, right? And so that's how I really dovetailed with your industry, because I did a lot of jobs that were in the hospitality realm. I mean, I was a waitress in Medford, Oregon. I was a maid also in Lake Tahoe, working my way one summer through. I a hotel maid. I was a bookstore clerk in Ashland, Oregon, which was in the summers extremely touristy. People came in from all over the state, the country, and the world actually to see the Shakespearean plays. So I learned how to deal with many different kinds of people and their needs and requests. And there were lots of other jobs. I had maps with the Forest Service. I made coffee at the student union and ran the cash register, and there were a bunch of other jobs. But the point is that Oregon gave me an opportunity to be to think about the possibility that I could actually be successful based on merit if I just worked hard and kept going. And so I really credit growing up in Oregon for a life that I'm pleased that I've gotten to have so far.
I know when we, absolutely. I know when we talked, I know we both can agree, it's really been a challenging couple of years. We had some conversations about that. The COVID-19 pandemic has been hard. And I shared with you a little bit about the severe impacts it's had on Oregon and our travel and tourism industry. And as we look forward to the future, what advice can you offer about pushing forward, about not giving up?
Well, while my experience in your industry is limited to what I've already expressed, I do know something about determination, and I think I should credit my mother for that. My mother taught me something from her culture that really seeped into me, and what she taught me was a word, and my mother survived, I should explain, she survived starvation, and I'm not talking just hunger, I'm talking starvation, because of the war years when she was a child. She was a rice farmer's daughter, and they couldn't find seed to grow rice. She emerged from bomb shelters, all these things because of, she was just a child in the war between Japan and the United States. At any rate, so the word she learned and the word she taught me was gombaru, which means to never, ever, ever, ever give up, even and especially when there is no chance of winning. It's not too unlike what Winston Churchill said, as he's quoted as saying, never give in, never, never, never. And I don't think it's really something that just people in England and people in Japan understand. This is a human awareness. We understand grit. Oregon understands grit. The idea that, you need to push back past really mostly your fears, and stand up and do what you're most motivated to do, what you love, for the people you love, for the place you love, for what gives you meaning in life, that you are going to continue. And I think we all feel it when we've had somebody in our lives tell us we couldn't do something, right? Who sort of stepped in our way and stopped us from something. Then we understand that sort of sense of determination and grit. And I think we've felt that with the pandemic and a lot, and the repercussions of the pandemic. And we can see it in the people in the Ukraine standing up. That's grit. And when we see it, it unleashes something in ourselves. We recognize something that's fundamentally human. And that is that, I think that whether we've discovered it in ourselves or not, there is a kind of purpose for this life we've had, and we are having, and we can, choose to discover it, follow it, or not. But I think that we don't want to be in a position, where we're distracted from what we are supposed to do, And so I think that's what I would say to all of you there. I think you already know what I'm saying, and you don't need me to say it. But, Oregon, I know, has taken it, and that's really the reason I said yes to this invitation, has taken a tremendous hit. But kites rise higher against the wind than with it. That there is this opportunity now, as there is for anyone, or any group or any organization that struggles. Struggle is a terrific teacher, and it allows you to rethink, reimagine, reinvent what has been working, what doesn't work. How can I find a way to make things work better? How can I not just make it be as good as it was, but how can I refashion it so that actually it'll be better than what it was? And I think, given what I know about Oregon, and given my travels around the country and the world, actually, my sense is that Oregon has always underestimated what it had to offer. Sometimes intentionally, because it didn't want everybody to move to Oregon, but I think that there is this moment now when I think, I'm going to say dag nabbit, where Oregon should stop seeing itself as, or being seen as, sort of the little sister, to be the one that's less. Oregon, I think, has the qualities, the beauty and the culture, to aspire to be not just great, but to be the greatest. And so that's what I would say, that this is the moment to rethink how you do it and what you do. And it's actually an exciting time, as hard as it is, because it's an opportunity, right? When things go really well, you just do what you do. But when things are not going well, as hard as it is, it's a chance to really think in a creative way about a way to be, not only do things better, but to be better. So that would be how I answer that question. I think that went on for a long time, so
No,
sorry about that.
I love it. Thank you. And I'm gonna learn how to pronounce that. Gambaro. I'm gonna learn how to pronounce that.
Yeah, my mother would say it as gum. Gum. It's almost like an A or an O, like almost together. Gumbaru, and she would say it fiercely like that. So
I love it.
But you don't have to say it. But just know how you can. But I think you can feel it, because you're a human being, as we all are human beings. We can feel what that means. We've had to face it ourselves in life, and this is the Gombaru moment for Oregon.
I appreciate that. We spent the last couple of days together, our colleagues from around the state, reconnecting, which has been amazing as things are being lifted and we have the ability to connect with each other And as an industry, as we talked about, we're made up a lot of different sectors. We're made up of destination management organizations, hotels, restaurants, guides and outfitters, attractions, state and federal agencies. But sometimes it feels like we might be moving in different directions, but trying to achieve the same goal. What are your thoughts on the importance of supporting each other and working together?
I think this is a really critical question, and it is critical to success. You know, supporting each other and staying connected is not always easy, but it is the way to win, in my experience. You know, I like the saying, a rising tide floats all boats. And I think that if you can think about being the rising tide that floats all boats, you know, then there is this feeling that you can work together. Another word I really like is the word team. And so when I have a goal, the first thing I do is to build a team. And the team, I look for, of course, talent, skills, but I also look for integrity and courage. And you know, a lot of the reporting that I've done has been in places that are dangerous and tough and scary, and you know, and I think that it's only because I've thought about you know, how to be, because I was tasked with being the leader of this team. How do I be successful in these missions to Iraq and Afghanistan and Kosovo and Syria and Somalia? How can I be successful with this team? And I thought a lot about that, and how do I get them all on board to the mission? And I thought a lot about it, and what I came out with was this idea that every one of us on the team, everyone who's brought into the team, brings different skills and talents and instincts, and that the idea I had was that I needed to hear, and we all needed to hear from each other, what our instincts and our skills and our talents were telling us, and that we wanted to create essentially a team that respected each other, so that when we were in a place that was very difficult, you know, my view was, okay, if your instincts are telling you that it's too dangerous to go there, I need to know that, and in fact, it's your responsibility to the rest of the team to tell us that. And it's going to be okay if you do that. And I was true to my word. If they didn't want to go, if something was too dangerous, or they felt differently, that there was a shot over here, or there was another way besides what I was suggesting that they thought the story should go, I tried to create the environment where we all were able to felt equally respected in talking about it. And I made, yes, the final decision, maybe with a producer, but in the end, everybody had a chance to be heard. And if you decided you didn't want to go, I would protect you. I would not make you go, and I would not penalize you for not going. What we would do is every one of us figured out a way to compensate. So I learned how to pick up the camera. I learned how to produce. The producer learned how to be on camera. In other words, and because of this kind of attitude, my effort to be extremely loyal to them, I got immense loyalty in return and fantastic work. You know, my priority number one was to bring everybody back safely, and make sure that I didn't lose anyone. And while there are numbers of the unknowns of business, right? You don't know, and in our case, the unknowns of locations where we were working. We try to limit those risks, but there always was a degree of risk that you couldn't protect against. But I think just making the priority, the people I worked with, making them the priority and their safety priority one, is actually, I think, was really helpful in succeeding in making sure I didn't lose anybody or have somebody or have our team be captured. It was an element as to why we were able to stay safe. And because that was discussed and openly amongst ourselves, the team would step, you know, I'm telling you, I had different people on the teams, but mostly there were some people who were almost always on the teams, and then there were some people who were different, new people on the teams. and that we would go with. But yet the thing that we always had was this, we built to this thing, which was we were going to achieve the mission, the story, we're going to be effective, but the number one goal was to protect each other. And guess what? We protect each other, and guess what? I don't think there was a time when we didn't achieve the goal. We did it because we worked really well together, because there was a sense of loyalty. So I don't know how this all fits for you, except for in this manner. I think that this challenge that you're facing is an opportunity for you to think differently about how you connect with each other and how you can support each other and how each one of you can see yourselves potentially, as I try to see myself, as part of the rising tide that floats all boats, that you can, as people who are in your fields, some of you run restaurants, some of you run hotels, some of you run major attractions like the Shakespearean Festival and all the different, some of you help guide people up mountains and down rivers. All of these fields, protecting our cities and being a member of a chamber of commerce, all these worlds can interconnect. And if the hotel down the street does well, and you're a hotel in competition with that hotel, and yet that raises the reputation of your community, even though there's competition, it's a rising wave. And so I think that would be what you're in a moment when it seems to me that because you're all facing a similar struggle, which is recovering from this pandemic and rising better, stronger. I think finding ways to maybe establish smaller groups that connect with bigger groups, in your state, dealing with your industry, and creating brainstorming groups and figuring out, maybe listening to everyone about new ways of doing things. In other words, creating a kind of environment where new and creative are encouraged to be suggested. And yet that you support each other. There's a feeling of trust that people can count on you, and and that you can count on others to reach this very same goal, which is, I think, yes, to be successful in your own professions and your own businesses, but to raise the state so that you will all be successful in the long run, right? Over time, not just for now, but over time. And how do you get there? And, there's another line, I'm big on lines, and there's another line that says, you can go faster alone or you can go farther together. And so I would say that this would be a strong argument for, and I think it is the way to win ultimately, is to go together. And that means really breaking down any walls that separate you from communicating in a diverse manner with, thinking about who are our customers, who are the kinds of customers we want to bring in. How do I make sure those voices are heard in this conversation about how to create anew, how to reinvent or to bolster what we're doing in a better way? Now, that would be how I would suggest, although I feel a little embarrassed because I know that maybe I've said things that you've already thought of, and maybe my experiences as a journalist don't completely conform, but maybe there's something of what I've said that some of you can take something away, come away with, and that might be useful. I hope so.
Absolutely, Anne. I mean, absolutely, yep. I think it's good. I think we can all use a refresher course after 2 years of, as Todd always says, seeing each other as postage stamps on our Zoom. I think being here in person is a good reminder about being together and the importance of working together, and rising tide lifts all boats. And I don't think that we can hear that enough. So I really appreciate you kind of taking us down that path. Travel Oregon is working on a strategic framework that will guide our agency and the industry through the next 10 years, which is really exciting. And do you have any thoughts on why it's important to have a sense of purpose, that purpose that drives us forward?
I think purpose is kind of everything. To me, it is. Because it makes you put up with, and also it makes your team, the team you've built, you're building, that you're growing, and also the people who are working within that team. Maybe people you aren't able to interface with directly. Purposes will help people go through the pain and suffering of reaching the goal. When I would work with my news teams, whether it was a serious subject or not, I would always explain why. Why are we doing this? What are we trying to come away with? And why? And do we? And if you agree that this is something that you care about being a part of, then we really want you on the team. And if it's not something you care about, then maybe it's not going to be worth the risks to you, right? In your field, it would seem to me that you are building a successful, your own specific successful business, along with many others in your field. But you're also, allowing people to feed their families. You're also leaving a legacy for a state and its people. You're also giving people a chance to enjoy and, have delight, have more happiness in their lives. This is an important thing. I mean, the person who set up the Oregon Carpenter Foundation that gave me a scholarship, he was a major contributor since the beginning in the 1940s to the Oregon Shakespearean Festival. He was himself a successful orchardist in Southern Oregon. And so there's a kind of investment in the state that you're a part of. And your work has huge impacts on people you won't ever meet in your state, people who are growing up there, who are students. I mean, I remember the Shakespearean Festival inspired me. I couldn't believe it. And all the people who came in, and I got to meet people from other countries. And there was a family there that came from England, and they compared the Shakespearean theater, the Elizabethan theater, the one they had in Stratford-upon-Avon. And I started reading about Shakespeare, and I even got to act in the high school play because I was inspired by Shakespeare. I mean, there are people who are impacted in ways that you can't imagine because of what you do. And there's a legacy that leaves, you see. So I think we diminish sometimes the purpose, the meaning of what we do. But I learned it very young. My father, when I asked him, Dad, I was 12 years old. In Ashland, I don't think I was in Ashland at that point. No, I didn't get to Ashland until I was about 15, 16. So it was earlier than that. But I did ask him the question when I was in Ashland, because I asked him repeatedly this question when I was growing up. Dad, what should I be when I grow up? And his answer was, he might say different things, but almost always he would end with the very same thing. And what he said was, in the end, he would say, and whatever you decide, do something in your life that is of some service to someone else. Because, and then he would say, no, I don't mean just being a good wife or a good mother, and being a good friend or a good daughter. Yeah, you should do all those things. But do something that is of some service to someone else. Because then and only then will you know on your last day, as you breathe your last breath, that it mattered that you were born. Now that's a pretty heavy thing to say to a 12-year-old, but he would say that, or he would say that through the years. He said that, I think the last time he said that to me, I think I was in my 20s or 30s, almost 30. It was a mantra for him that you can make a difference. And I think we do, unknowingly, in our careers, in what we do. There are ways to see the difference you make, but there is so much other difference that we don't know about. And I think to be okay about not seeing it if your purpose is right, see? So I think we underestimate ourselves. And those of you who are creating value, I think probably do underestimate the positive impact of the work you're doing. Not just for the people who are working for your companies, but actually for your communities and actually for your state and actually for generations to come. you know. And so I think having purpose is what steals you. You know, my purpose. My husband and I went to a wedding. This is a little bit probably too much information, but we went to a wedding, and we witnessed a couple who, among their other vows, vowed to support each other in the pursuit of their life's purpose. Which I thought that's pretty good, you know. Brian, my husband thought, oh, that's pretty good. By the way, I met him at the University of Oregon, so that's another impact that Oregon had on my life. Anyway, and so we thought about that, and the idea that we all have this life's purpose that we need to pursue. It made us start thinking about, well, what is it? And you know, it became clearer to me that I had an interest in giving voice to people who are unheard, who are not heard and not listened to, and that, you know, my ideas about fairness in a democracy and is that we should hear people who are not listened to. I care about the underdog, and so this idea of and which has been my purpose in the work the entire time I've been in it, and that is why I would fight to go to places that I shouldn't have gone necessarily if I was a sane person, you know, Darfur and places like that, and into war zones. It was because I knew that there were people who needed to be heard, you know, and that's one of the reasons why I would go cover humanitarian stories so often in, you know, Southeast Asia, and why I would interview people who were not just presidents, but who were despots, you know, people who like the, you know, Erdogan in Turkey and Bashar al-Assad in Syria, and like Omar al-Bashir, the person who was accused of genocide in Darfur, the president of Sudan, because you know, you had to ask them the questions, you know, for those people who had no voice, who were not heard. And what I've learned is that people who are not heard often have the most to say. And if you listen, they not only speak volumes, but they teach you things. They open you up and awaken you to a greater reality. They break through, you know, your own sort of blocks, your blinders to the world. And so that was really what drove me and made me willing to take risks, made me willing to be afraid for my team and to make sure they were safe and to take those steps to figure things out in that manner. And having a purpose is what will cause the people who work for your companies to be willing to take the steps that maybe aren't fun, that might be hard, that might be challenging, might mean that they have to work really hard and really late in the evening because they believe in what you're doing. They believe in purpose. And so I think nailing purpose is I think it's fundamental, and I highly encourage you to think about that. Luckily I went to a wedding that where I learned about the pursuit of my life's purpose, but I probably would have come to it eventually.
So Anne, as we're kind of wrapping up, you know, our final session here in Sun River, and everyone's, you know, we're on the brink. I love how you talked about risk. You know, we're on the brink of risk. We're moving forward. The last 2 years swung the door open to think about change and how we look at ourselves and our industry. And as folks are getting in their cars and they're driving home and they're just reflecting on the last couple of days, and I've heard you talk about purpose and being heard and team and togetherness. Like, is there any kind of like last kind of final words or thoughts that like you'd love to see us just really think about? I loved talking to you about, you know, as you're traveling the world, talking to people about, Oregon has the best Shakespearean Festival. It's better than what they're seeing in Europe. It's, you know, the Oregon coast, it's untouched. I heard you just passionately talk about that. What can you leave us with that we can just really think about as we're moving forward and starting this great work?
I can tell you the Shakespeare I've seen in Oregon is far better than on Broadway, okay? And I think that the coastline of Oregon is second to none. The trails, the rivers, the beauty, the food in Portland. I mean, I feel that Oregon underestimates itself. And I think that maybe Oregon will have to resolve this question. How much do we want people to know about Oregon? But I think that if Oregon wanted, Oregon can be seen for what it truly is. My father used to call Oregon God's country because after a career in the military, traveling hither and yon, he just couldn't believe that he lucked into moving his family to this beautiful state, which he had never seen, but he read about in the Ashland Daily Tidings. And he couldn't believe his luck. And I couldn't believe our luck. I resisted coming to Oregon because I'd lived in all these different places, and I thought, wait a minute, you're taking us to a small town way on the other side of the country in a state called Oregon, and the town is, I think at the time, had 14,000 people in it. I said, Dad, what are you doing? And he said, well, Ann, it just sounds like a great place. Wow, I have to say that maybe, I just think that it was exactly, the openness, the generosity we experienced, the opportunities to work, the culture in Ashland and in other parts of the state, the physical beauty, the love of nature, all of these things were just such great gifts in Oregon. And the sense that, that individuals matter. I know that these times have been incredibly tough for a lot of reasons, not just the pandemic. But if you didn't have something to work with, I wouldn't be saying all of this. But boy, do you have something to work with in Oregon. And so there is every reason for you to succeed in your wish to not just rise, but rise higher. As a kite against the wind would in Oregon. And I cheer you and encourage you. And I'm excited for the day I come back. And I have many family there and members there and friends as well. And I can tell you already that I've already got tickets to the Shakespearean Festival on the 4th of July. And I'll be in Oregon really soon. So it's nice to speak to you, and thank you so much for listening, and I wish you every luck.
We really appreciate you, Ann. I just appreciate you sticking with your Oregon roots and just being out there and being such an advocate for us. We so appreciate it. We have a few minutes for a few questions, and I just would like to let everyone in the audience know that to ensure that Ann can see you when you're asking your questions, we have a mic in the middle of a room. And I know sometimes that can be a little intimidating, but I think it would be great if she can see you when you're talking. So if you would like to. I'll turn it over to you, Billy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, and it's just such a pleasure. Everybody's laughing because I guess I ask a lot of questions, but I think that's why they're laughing, just so you know. No, but it is everything that you said and that Lisa said, but my number one question for you is, what was your favorite interview out there in the world, in the big world that you have been? Well, who was your favorite interview?
Well, I think, I struggle with this question a little bit because it depends on why it's my favorite interview. But I would say that probably personally, my favorite interview was with Dr. Maya Angelou, the poet, because it was so transformative. It was earlier in my career at NBC, after I'd worked in Medford, Oregon as a reporter, as well as Portland, Oregon as a reporter, and Los Angeles too. But early in my years at NBC in New York, NBC News, I interviewed Dr. Maya Angelou, and I didn't know what to expect. It was for a series I was doing, and she said she said several things that were just so beautiful. So I'm going to try to paraphrase them in case they're beautiful for you. I wish I had the exact words in front of me, but she said, I asked her what the best thing she had ever learned was. And at this point, I think she's probably in her 60s or 70s when I interviewed her. And she was a poet. She would become a poet laureate. She was a teacher. She had been many things. And she said, well, the best thing that I've ever learned is that I've been loved. Because whether your people came to America fleeing the pogroms in Russia, or whether they immigrated here fleeing poverty or famine, or whether they were forced here in slave ships, flying spoon fashion against their will, every one of those people paid a price for us. And they dreamed of us. And they wanted us to be happy and successful. And so I already know that I was loved. And I thought that was just an enormously beautiful message, because it speaks to our ancestors and who we often forget, and how they must have, what they might have gone through for us. She said, many other things, but I would say that she was probably the most, and you can probably find that interview online if you're, because you can find anything online now, even things you don't want to find online. But I think you could probably find that still. I think that interviewing despots has been one of the things I'm proud of. But so they're my favorites for different reasons. And certainly there are interviews that are my favorites for other reasons. Billy Bob Thornton was an amazing interview. Omar al-Bashir, the president of Sudan, was an important interview. And there was a guy I interviewed who was a warlord in Congo, where more people had been killed, including both more people than even killed in Iraq and Afghanistan combined, and yet it was a war that people weren't covering or thinking about. So I went to cover it because, I'd like to go do stories about things that people aren't paying attention to. And I interviewed this man who was accused in these war crimes, and I had to travel up this mountain road to his hideout, and we were greeted by child soldiers as well as adult male soldiers carrying heavy artillery, and it was misty at the top, and it was very scary. And he was accused of terrible war crimes against women, against children, and I had to step it up. So I was proud of that one. So that was one of my favorites, because I was scared, and to overcome your fear, you see, is again gombaru, to not let anything get in your path to doing a good job. And I felt like I did what my mom told me, and I asked him the questions that needed to be asked, and I got it down in spite of my fear. And that's really the thing, that when you are able to overcome your fears and you can seize your determination, you're proud of yourself in the end, so it's really worth doing for all of you in this moment.
Thank you, Anne.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us today for our lunch. My question to you is, who were some of your mentors growing up, and who inspired you, and who did you look up to during your career?
Well, the one I really can't help but look up to was the one my father used to love watching, and that was Walter Cronkite. We used to watch him every night. My dad would read the Ashland Daily Tidings, and then we'd go down and watch Walter. But whenever somebody was not somebody was filling in for Walter when Walter was off or something, Dad would get sometimes, oftentimes, not every time, but oftentimes he'd get really angry because he felt like the person who was talking was trying to tell him what to think. And he'd say, well, Anne, and he started yelling at the TV set. He'd say, because of a tone or maybe a word that would feel pejorative, which almost sounds, quaint in this time and age, but he would basically start yelling at the TV and say, stop telling me what to think. And he would look at me and say, Anne, see, they're trying to tell us what to think. They disrespect us. They don't think that we have a mind of our own. And that changed me. That made me think about it. And I can't say that I've been perfect in my work. I mean, we're human beings, and a lot of what I was doing was live television. But my goal was not to tell people what to think, not to disrespect them. And I tried very hard not to do that. And I think that was something that I got, from Walter, who I eventually got to meet a couple of times, and and so I'm delighted to say that he actually became a mentor in person, which was nice. But I would say that there were a number of people who gave me an opportunity, and I'm going to say one thing that might speak to some of you in the audience. When I came up, it was about more than 10 years after the Civil Rights Act allowed women an opportunity to do jobs that were outside the secretary, teacher, nurse box, right? There was an opportunity for women to do other kinds of jobs. And so I graduated from the University of Oregon in 1974. I got my first jobs in the late 70s, early 80s. And the station where I worked, where I first got a job as an intern, had never had a woman reporter before. They'd had a woman who did the weather, and and she was a wonderful woman who also did the women's broadcast, the noon broadcast. But they'd never had a woman reporter. And this room, the newsroom was, and I wanted to be a reporter. That's why I went to journalism school. That's what I really wanted to do. So I applied for the job after being an intern there for a while. And I also had gotten to help produce the noon women's broadcast and also be on the women's broadcast. But I really wanted to be a reporter. And it was really hard on those guys to have me walk in. I mean, hey, look at me. I mean, I just graduated from college. I was, didn't look like the people in the community, really. I was a serious minority, and I was a woman, and they'd never had a woman. So it was really hard on them, and at the beginning. And they didn't want me there. And one of them said, women have no news judgment. Besides, you can't carry the camera. He had a lot of fear, looking at me, thinking, maybe I shouldn't have this job. And I said it with my mouth. I said, okay, just give me a chance. And with my mind, I thought, oh yeah, watch me. And Bombado came out in me. I just really it was like, okay, determination. But I got to tell you, I came to really admire those men, because all of them came around. And it was a man, a general manager, who decided to give me that job. So essentially, my career, so while I can say, well, it wasn't fair and it was really, why weren't women there? The truth is, white men, as the general manager of the station, as my news director, who came around and eventually said, don't let anything I ever said to you, stop you from your dreams. The men and the sportscaster, Mr. McLeod, who one day my car broke down, he came and picked me up, and they all came to my party when I had to finally leave after many years. They came around and they supported me. They understood that that I was doing something of some value for them, and they recognized that. And I admired that, because I realized that it was hard for them, to make a space for me because it had not happened before. And I think back on all those men fondly and grateful that they gave me and that I got to learn from them. And now in that station has had many more women reporters, and I think that it's really the future. I hope is there have been many of these kinds of mentors, people who've made a space, and what I hope is in the future, what we do is what we understand that success to really achieve optimal success, including financial success. What you need is for the best to rise, not the best of any particular group, but the best. Because when you have all the groups in the room, and you say, okay, we want to choose the best among you. If you can broaden your search, you will broaden your chances of getting those who will help you innovate and be smarter and stronger. And what I think is that I was just so appreciative that there was an opportunity for me to have a space. And I like to think that I left great work in that place, and that is a beloved place for me in Southern Oregon. Anyway, I guess what I want to say is that all those men were among my mentors, and even though they made it hard for me at the beginning, that made me better, and I know that in the end, they made me better, and that I hope I made them, and I think I did make them understand that someone like me could help them be better.
Hello, Anne. My name is Karolina. I'm Polish, who always says that Ashland chose me to come here. And so I felt such a connection with you when you said that Oregon gave you so many opportunities. Oregon gave me so many opportunities, but there's also the grit that you need to mix with it to reach different things. And today's words that inspire us all, thank you so much. And believing in Oregon is so huge. Oregon, we love dreamers, and all of us are here dreamers. And I want to also, just before my question, say, you're an amazing example of the Oregon motto, she flies with her own wings.
Well, I really appreciate that idea of she flies with her own wings, but you need some wind, and I can't help but think of all the people who in Oregon, the Carpenters, Mrs. Converse, those wonderful men at my first station at KTVL, even the one who said I couldn't do the job and came around, all of them. I think of all of them. The people who are nice to my family. I mean, you can't fly alone. You can have your own wings, but you need sky, you need the wind, you need the opportunity to soar. And I think Oregon really has that kind of generosity, and so I'm so grateful to Oregon.
Thank you. My question has to do with the future, your future. I'm curious about what exciting new projects you can share with us that you're working on that we might see in 2022-23. Thank you.
Well, during the pandemic, I was thinking, okay, what's going to happen? Because I had a broadcast that was helping people who are essentially uninsured in some of the places in America where people don't have access to good doctors. We were able, with a broadcast, to connect them with the best doctors, not only in the country, but in the world. And as a result, people were diagnosed with diseases that changed their lives. And that was happening before COVID happened. So that was stopped. And I also have did a series for PBS called We'll Meet Again, which was a docuseries that was a 2-year project. During the pandemic, I decided, given what was happening to journalism, that I wanted to contribute, doing something to help it. So I done lectures on journalism, but specifically focused a series of lectures at American universities, specifically for journalism students, and have been trying to really bolster the ideas about journalism that I think people need to understand, which is that there is such a thing as absolute truth. And while there is a debate about both sidesism, which is just lazy journalism, that striving for looking at the truth from all sides is how you find it. You don't find it by looking for truth from your own perspective and your own prejudices and biases. So that this has been part of my lesson to these young journalists who are coming up. I'm giving, I have more lecture series coming up. I think the biggest thing, there's a documentary that I'm being pulled into being a part of. But the most exciting thing that's happening right now is that I'm gearing up to be awarded something pretty cool. It's the Edward R. Murrow Lifetime Achievement in Journalism Award, which is coming up. And so that's actually not my doing something as much as something I'm going to something. And to think, that I'll be getting this Edward R. Murrow Lifetime Achievement Award in Journalism Award, and that it could only have happened. It only could happen because, in my view, because I had these opportunities in Oregon and this place that gave me a job, and these men who gave me a job in Oregon. I mean, it just is. And I've been doing. I've been calling all these people. So I called the general manager, Dennis Williamson from KTVL, and he was shocked to get the call. And I called to thank him. I called Patsy Smolin. I've been reaching out to different people who played a part in this. And I some of them are in Los Angeles because I work there. There's a woman I worked with in Medford who's now in Spokane who I reach out to. But the point is, I've been seeing this as an opportunity to reconnect with people who may not even know that they made a difference in my life. And I've been thinking about, I think that this idea, and I would highly suggest that you do this if there's anyone you want to thank, because I tried to reach out to Mrs. Converse, and she's already gone, so I missed my opportunity to reach out to Mrs. Converse to thank her for making sure I got into college. But I think that's actually just the short list of the things that I've been focusing on now. I'm speaking to USC coming up, to their medical graduates pretty soon. But anyway, the list goes on. I've been basically focusing on projects that do good, and I've been lucky about some of these awards that are coming my way.
Thanks. And thank you so much just for your wisdom and I know you are so incredibly busy. So thank you for taking the email and my persistence to being here today. We just really appreciate you and just you carrying on your Oregon roots. And I know we will meet again soon. So can we just get a round of applause for Ann Curry, please?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. All the best to you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for your persistence. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow. That was amazing. Woo! The last 2 days speak for themselves, but as we all know, Sun River is just truly a magnificent place and the absolute asset for Central Oregon and Oregon's tourism economy. And I'm going to just cut this short by saying I'm just so excited to now bring up Tom O'Shea, the managing director of Sun River, so he can say some words to you and also some words about his staff. So Tom, do you want to come on up?
Wow, good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Yeah? Gosh, it feels like it's been so long since I've been in front of a mic with people without masks on. I've almost forgotten how to do this. So you might have to help me out. First of all, thank you all for being here. It's great to see such a large crowd in a room. We've certainly come through some interesting times over the past couple of years, how to survive in a pandemic and redefine, quite frankly, what we all know as hospitality. I wasn't prepared for this. I don't know if any of you were. I certainly wasn't. And it reminds me of a story when you're trying to express confidence at a time when you really don't know exactly where you're going. And it reminds me of a trip with my daughter when she was at the University of Portland, and I was living in the Bay Area, and we were coming back. It was Christmas time, and I flew up because she had a car and she wanted to bring her car home for the break. And so I decided I would fly up and then I would drive the car. And has any of you ever been through a snowstorm in Weed? Huh? Okay. Well, I have. And my young daughter, thinking that her dad knows everything and is so confident and is not going to have any problem with this storm. And she looks at me and she says, "Gosh, Dad, I'm really glad," something to the effect of, "I'm really glad that you're driving because I've never experienced anything like this, and it's so comforting to know that you are so capable of handling this." 10 minutes later, we pulled in and we're staying in a motel overnight, and I told her, "By the way, back there, I wasn't really as confident as you thought you were." It reminds me of a more recent conversation I had with Teresa O'Neill. And Teresa, we're probably having a glass of wine normally. That involves when Teresa comes to town, which of course I am totally in favor of. And she said, "Gosh, we're going to make this happen." And it sort of reminded me of me and my daughter. I said, "Is Teresa just trying to build me up?" But we made it happen. And it's great to see that. I mean, I think that I was talking to, first of all, I want to recognize Teresa for all of her help, and Todd and Jason and all of the folks that we've been talking to over the past couple of years. Hospitality changed in its definition, quite frankly, over the past couple of years. I mean, there's many components to hospitality, basically based on a foundation of care. Really, that's what hospitality is. And generally, part of those various components of hospitality is security and safety. And really what happened over the past couple of years was we had an environment of security and safety with some components of hospitality. And then how to redefine what that was. How do we provide service but not do things that would compromise people? It made you think about the person next to you. It made you think about the person's family. It made you think about their responsibilities. And generally, when we break it down, we have guests. We have our staff who actually make it happen. We have our community. We have our partners. And I generally, in my career, we look at our business with those various components. But through COVID, we all became people. We weren't owners, we weren't guests, we became people because we made decisions that hopefully impacted us all equally. And we became more aware of the individual next to us. And when we started out, it was a little bit more difficult, and people were like maybe not as understanding of why can't you have grand illuminations with 5,000 people? It's outdoors. They don't need to wear masks. Well, grand illuminations happens in the winter. Maybe 500 of them may want to go inside when it gets really cold. Yeah, I could say, well, do I really want to be part of a massive spreader on the front page of the Bend Bulletin? No, I think grand illuminations can wait for a moment. Maybe we'll do it next year, because it was about the people, making sure that we made decisions on a foundation of hospitality. As I said, ultimately comes down to care. And that's really what we've learned over the past couple of years. I mean, it's all about people. How you take care of your customer, how you take care of your employees, how you take care of your community, and how you collaborate. I mean, Annette Levy with the Governor's Office, Regional Solutions here in Bend, was a tremendous support to me early on. If I wanted questions or answers, she would find the answer for me if she didn't have it. Emily Freeland with the health department, amazing help to us. Generally speaking, in hospitality, we're not talking to the health department every day, and most likely if you are, that's probably not good. So basically, but they became great partners to us and helped us through this. We didn't get through this alone. Generally in a downturn, and we've all been through downturns, the resort business is the first to suffer in the hospitality industry. It's discretionary. What do you mean? You can see them, you've all been in meetings. What do you mean you're going to a resort in the middle of a recession? It becomes discretionary, business gets cut back. But in this scenario, under COVID, resorts actually did quite well because people just wanted to get out of town. They just wanted to get away, to sense some degree of freedom, maybe, perhaps, experience something that looked like was normal. I mean, it was exciting to see people just on a bicycle riding around Sun River, and it was like, wow, you know, this is when you can actually ride a bike in the middle of the summer. But so it was really, so we were very fortunate in that regard. However, and this is really where I think we have a great deal of success today, and we should celebrate, is that we lost 95% of our convention business during COVID, 95%. I can tell you today that we will recover 90% of our stabilized convention business in 2022. Okay? So to me, having the Governors Conference here is a tremendous boost for us. It's like a launch. It's a rebirth of what's going on in hospitality, because leisure business generally is doing fine. But, you know, a huge part of our business is bringing groups in here, and whether it's for, you know, whatever, it's a new release or education or whatever else, it's a major part of our industry, and we need it back, and it's well on the way back. So first of all, so again, thank you all for being here, but at the end of the day, the reason we're successful is not because of me. The reason we're successful is because of that 18 and 19-year-old that came into work every day, that was new to the industry, and said, okay, fine, I'm going to help you through this. And people like us have to make sure that we're there to support them. Because one of the things we did learn through this process as well, civility did not always prevail. Not at all. And that's where, as senior leaders, I felt that was our responsibility, to intercede when something just got a little bit out of hand. What do you mean you can't seat me? You've got 5 empty tables. But I only have 2 people working. So again, lots of lessons learned. Civility prevails. It's all about the people. It's all about partnership. And having said that about how wonderful the staff are here and how lucky we are to have a staff like that, I'd like to bring them out so we can recognize them. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
All right. Oh, we're almost at the end. We have one more fabulous guest speaker to come up and tell us about next year's conference, the president and CEO of Travel Portland, Jeff Miller.
I am the last person, I think, well, Todd will have to say a few things, but the last person between you and leaving, so I'll be quick. I couldn't be more excited to have this conference in Portland next year. I want to thank Todd, the commission, his staff, for believing in us and knowing that we can host this. This has been so good to be together. I always say it's the meeting before the meeting and the meeting after the meeting that are the best parts. And that drink in the bar, meeting people that you didn't know you needed to know. And so thank you for making that possible for all of us. Portland, you may have read about us in the news or seen us on TV. We are not on fire. Portland is coming back. Portland is coming back just fine. As we bring meeting planners in to see Portland, they get there and to a person they say, oh, this isn't bad. This is like every other city we're in. It's not bad. Of course, we're going to bring our conference here. And so we're excited to have people see it. We want you to come and see it. I would say that the biggest thing that we have struggled with is Oregonians not understanding what's going on in their major city, and that it's not really what they've seen on TV for months and months and months. Downtown Portland looks better than it's looked in a long time. We've got a long way to go. We have livability issues that you all know about, and other cities do too. I would say from our elected leaders, and I spend 60% of my time with elected leaders now versus the 20 that I would like to spend, they are committed to fixing the problem in the long term. We also want to fix some of the problems in the short term, and the industry is at those tables talking to our elected leaders about the issues that visitors and even residents are dealing with every day. But we are committed to having a more equitable city where all communities benefit from the economic impact of tourism. Workers, hopefully will now be coming back, that we have mask mandates coming off. There are 90,000 workers in downtown Portland that we haven't seen for a while. That's a lot of people. It creates a lot of economic impact in the restaurants that we all want to eat in, and certainly the coffee shops. Our team is back 2 days a week. We'll be back 3 days a week in the office starting in April. So we're excited about that. We want to be part of the solution as well. Hotels occupancy is coming back last week, and this is before NCAA. Yay, NCAA. Thank you, Jim Etzel. We were over 50% occupancy, which is a real win. ADR was up 33%, and revenue, which is the thing that makes my heart sing, was up 134% last week. There are lots of summer events that are coming back, the beer festival, the jazz festival. We've developed some strategic funding to help some of those back, so there's plenty for you to see and do in Portland. The museum has the new Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera exhibit. Your city, the big city in Portland really has a lot of cultural opportunities for everyone, and I want you to be able to tell your neighbors that Portland is okay to go back to. The convention business is also coming back. At the end of this month, we are hosting the Public Libraries Association, 4,500 delegates from around the country, $4.4 million in economic impact. And that's important to the rest of the state because those before and after visits are where they get to come and see your parts of Oregon and enjoy what you have to offer and what your destinations have to offer. So we're excited to have the convention business coming back. It'll take us a while to get fully up to speed, but we've got that brand new Hyatt right next to the convention center. And let me tell you, the sales teams is doing a great job of booking it. I look forward to seeing you in Portland next year and welcoming you and having a drink with you in the bar.
The first thing that someone's going to feel when they walk into our downtown location is the bass. We've got Habibi right down the street, the India House, Multnomah Whiskey Library. That's another beautiful location.
I usually recommend heading down to Burnside near Powell's and kind of walk up and down.
There's amazing food. There are amazing people. There's so much humanity happening here.
No matter who you are, no matter what you like, there's like something for everyone in every category.
Central East Side has been at home since May 3rd to be exact. We have black-eyed pea fritters, we have collard greens, yes, we got kale. It's the best vegan food in Portland, Oregon. When I'm done with work, usually I like to go to White Owl Social Club.
I love away days at the brewery right down the street. So they're just like a British soccer pub. And then there's a Hawthorne Asylum food cart pod right over here as well.
I think you can spend a whole day on Mississippi and have stuff to do. You know, you can get a nice coffee here, you can get brunch, lunch, come up here, get some barbecue, drink a bunch of beers all afternoon. I think this neighborhood is definitely a great place to spend a day exploring.
Go to 23rd and turn left, and you cannot go wrong.
Washington Park is right off of the 23rd area. Portland Rose Garden is up there, the Japanese gardens as well. So that's kind of more even in the rain. There's just this serenity and this peaceful calmness that's up there.
Now, when you say the Jade District, people understand is, 82nd Avenue. There's a lot of, multicultural cuisines, food carts. There's a lot of great things in the area. 82nd is evolving from what it used to be. And I think what the Jade District has done is kind of give this area an identity.
I want people to feel that everybody's welcome. I have stuff from India, I have stuff from Africa, I have stuff from America, I have stuff from all over the world. I want everybody to feel there's something here for them. If it's Thai food, Indian food, Mexican food, it's all here within 3 to 4 blocks.
Jeff, my friend, the easiest thing you've asked me to do is to believe in you. That ain't hard, my friend. Not at all. To believe in you, to believe in your team at Travel Portland, and for goodness sake, to believe in your city. I am so excited to be coming to Portland for the annual Governor's Tourism Conference. I'm thrilled with what you have done to make sure that the image and true stories of Portland are still being told. I love seeing the positive stories that are coming out about Portland, and I applaud you and your innovative team for the work that you're continuing to do to get that story out there. And especially love, Billy knows I love this because I've told her, and I believe it was Billy's idea, if memory serves me right, although she would quickly credit the team. I think it kind of came out of a brainstorming session. But if you don't subscribe to the industry e-news that Travel Portland puts out, they actually dedicate one of their weekly e-newsletters every month to good news. It's a good news newsletter, and it's all the positive press that's coming out about Portland. So it's exciting to read that. I look forward to it every month. I applaud your team again for being so innovative and making sure that your colleagues throughout the city know that there's a real positive vibe and a real hope for Portland, and it's coming through loud and strong. So we are here for Portland, we are here for you, and we're excited for next year, Jeff. So thank you for hosting us. We're looking forward to it. We have heard so many great messages throughout this conference. I love you pulling me aside going, that was awesome. That one was better than the last one. This has been the best conference ever. I mean, it's just continued to escalate with the excitement that you've had about the speakers that have been here and have been able to share their messages, whether it's a message of inspiration or it's a message of data that you can go back and apply to your marketing or to your development programs or to your grant, whatever it might be, that you're able to go back and make those, smarter, more strategic, more innovative kinds of decisions. So many great messages that have powered through. But one of the great messages and themes that I've sensed flowing through this conference is one of hope. You heard it from Ann Curry. She used the word hope how many times? You heard it from our speakers this morning, our panelists this morning, when the one gentleman mentioned how he hoped to become an astronaut, even though when he looked on television and saw who was going up in space back in the day, You didn't see people that looked like him. But still, as an 8-year-old boy, he had his cardboard box, and he was living the dream, and he was hoping he was going to become an astronaut. In the same way that she hoped that she could become a pilot, she dreamed of being able to move beyond her village. And to do so, she was going to need to become a pilot. And I love the fact that she reminded all of us that if we're having a bad day, the best way to shake it off is to go do something in service to somebody else. What a lovely way to get rid of your bad day. And of course, Amy Wolf at our awards banquet reminded us all that it's a good time to hope again and challenged us all to do that. I think all of us carry this divine spark of hope within us. And our chance to be able to come together here for the first time in over 2 years has really fanned that spark, that divine spark of hope, into a flame. And our hope for one another, our hope for this tourism industry, our hope for Oregon, our hope for ourselves is what's going to unite us. It's what's going to bind us together. It's what's going to afford us that platform that we need for the conversations, the collaboration, and the occasional conflicts that we must and need to have together. I don't know if all of you were able to pick up a copy of Amy's book. I've been poring over it during the conference. And as I thought of hope, I came across this. Talk about a little divine intervention. A Roman African theologian and philosopher from AD 400, named Augustine of Hippo, said, "Hope has 2 beautiful daughters, and their names are anger and courage. Anger at the way things are, and courage to see that they do not have to remain as they are." My friends, go forward from here, travel home safely, and get out there, as Ann Curry challenged all of us, and rise as kites against the wind. I was going to tease Lisa about how contrived it was to bring 300 of us together for her birthday. Nice job, Lisa. But I do want to say from the very bottom of my heart, as sincerely and as passionately as I can, you know the work that went into this. You showed the love and affection for the Sun River team that took such great care of us, cleaning up after us, cooking for us, serving us, waiting on us, providing us hospitality, taking care of us. And I would also ask you to offer one more round of applause. And it's because when it comes to pulling together a convention like this, it truly is one of those things. It may take a village, but that village has a mayor, and the mayor has a chief of staff. So would you please give a very warm round of applause to the dynamic duo that have really put their heart and soul into this conference, our mayor, Lisa Edel, and her chief of staff, Matthew Finn, with Travel Oregon. Now get out there and be kites. I'll see you in Portland.